What would you call a father who locks his 6 months pregnant daughter outside in 39-degree weather while she bleeds? Cruel? Heartless? Criminal? That night in November, as I stood shivering on my father's porch with blood running down my legs, I watched him and my brother raise their whiskey glasses through the glass door. They laughed at what they called my Oscar-worthy performance before turning off every light, leaving me in complete darkness with my unborn child. The rain was relentless, the contractions were getting worse, and the man who would eventually save me wasn't just any stranger. He was someone whose identity would destroy my family's empire in front of 200 witnesses at Seattle's most exclusive venue. Hi everyone, I'm Lola Ouellette, 28 years old. What you're about to hear is how 30 years of family abuse ended with a single signature that cost them everything they'd built on my back. If you're watching this, please subscribe and let me know where you are watching from. Every Wednesday at 3 p.m., I sat at the mahogany conference table in Ouellette Construction's boardroom. The seating arrangement never changed. My father Robert commanded the head position, his silver hair gleaming under the crystal chandelier. Marcus, my older brother and executive vice president, claimed the power seat to his right. And me? I occupied the chair nearest the door, like a visitor who might need to leave quickly. The Waterfront Tower project, my father announced that particular Wednesday in early November, spreading architectural plans across the table. $2 billion, the opportunity of the century for whoever lands the subcontract. Marcus leaned forward, his Rolex catching the light. We're perfectly positioned, Dad. Our connections, our reputation, Robert interrupted, his eyes sweeping past me as if I were invisible, is built on 3 generations of Ouellette men who understood that construction is about strength, not sensitivity. I kept my eyes on my notebook, sketching modifications to a design I'd been perfecting for months. My hand instinctively moved to my growing belly, 6 months along now, though my oversized blazer hid most of the evidence. Lola, are you even listening? Marcus's sharp voice cut through my thoughts. Or are you doodling again while we discuss real business? I'm listening, I replied quietly, closing my notebook. Good, because you need to understand how real deals are made, not through your little drawings, but through relationships, power, things you'll never have because you're too weak to take them. My father nodded approvingly. Your brother's right. Just observe and learn, Lola. This is men's work. The irony burned in my throat, but I swallowed it down. They had no idea what I'd been building in secret. 3 years earlier, I'd learned exactly what my place was in the Ouellette family hierarchy. The Riverside Complex project. 42 stories of mixed-use development that would reshape Seattle's waterfront. I'd spent 6 months perfecting every detail, working 18-hour days while Marcus partied with clients. The night before the client presentation, Marcus had called. Hey, little sister, Dad wants me to present tomorrow, says it needs a strong voice. But I designed everything, I'd protested. The sustainable features, the community spaces. And you did great support work, but clients want to see leadership. Don't worry, your contribution won't go unnoticed. It did go unnoticed. When Riverside Complex won the AIA Northwest Award 8 months later, Marcus stood at the podium, accepting the Crystal Trophy. The Seattle Times ran his photo on the business page. Marcus Ouellette, visionary behind award-winning Riverside Complex. I'd been standing in the back of the auditorium, 7 months into my first pregnancy, watching my brother claim my greatest achievement. My husband David had squeezed my hand. You should say something. Family stays united, I'd whispered back, repeating the mantra my father had drilled into me since childhood. His success is my success. Now, 3 years later, sitting in that boardroom with David gone, killed by a drunk driver just 2 months ago, I understood the lie in those words. Marcus's success had been built entirely on my talent, my late nights, my innovation. The awards lining the office walls, the contracts worth millions. How many bore his name, but my soul? Earth to Lola, Marcus snapped his fingers in front of my face. Stop daydreaming about your dead husband and pay attention. Even grief was something they wouldn't let me own. 6 months pregnant and 2 months widowed, that was my reality in November. The baby kicked as I shifted in the uncomfortable conference chair, a reminder that David's child would never know their father. Still playing the victim, I see, my father observed, noticing my hand on my belly. This is what happens when you marry beneath your station. David had been a structural engineer, brilliant but from a working-class family in Tacoma. No trust fund, no country club membership, no connections my father could exploit. To Robert Ouellette, that made him worthless. If you'd married someone like Harrison's son, a real provider, you wouldn't be in this mess, Marcus added, not looking up from his phone. Now you're a burden on the family resources. Resources. As if my grief was a line item on a budget. The day David died, I'd called my father from the hospital, sobbing. His response? I warned you about marrying poor. At least he had life insurance, right? No condolences. No comfort. Not even Marcus had attended the funeral, claiming an important client meeting. The only flowers at David's grave came from his construction crew, the men my family called beneath us. The baby's due in February, I said quietly, trying to change the subject. Another mouth to feed on the family trust, Robert muttered. Your mother's money won't last forever, Lola. What he didn't mention was that he controlled every penny of my inheritance until I turned 30. $2 million my mother left me, locked away while I struggled to pay for prenatal care. That night, I stayed late in my small office, really a converted storage room my father had generously given me. While Ouellette Construction slept, I worked on something that would change everything. My computer screen glowed with intricate architectural plans, not for my family's company, but for a project they knew nothing about. The file name read simply, Project Phoenix. An email notification popped up at 11:47 p.m. From A.S. Subject, Revision 14. Brilliant work on the revision, L. Your vision for the waterfront is exactly what Seattle needs. The board is impressed. Can we schedule a video call tomorrow at noon? Discreet line as agreed. I quickly typed back. Confirmed. I'll use the secure connection. For 2 years, I'd been working in secret. Submitting designs under a carefully constructed identity, building a reputation entirely separate from the Ouellette name. The email signature I used for this work read simply, L. Phoenix Independent Architecture Consultant. My phone buzzed with another message. Your sustainable design approach could revolutionize the industry. The innovation in Section 7 particularly, genius. Genius. Not adequate for a woman, not cute attempt, genius. I saved my work to an encrypted drive, then cleared my browser history. Paranoid? Maybe. But I'd learned the hard way that anything valuable I created in this building would inevitably become Marcus's next award-winning project. Tomorrow's video call would be crucial. The client was ready to move forward. They just didn't know they were about to hire Robert Ouellette's overlooked daughter. The manila envelope from Swedish Medical Center felt heavier than it should. I spread the bills across my kitchen table, each one a reminder of my vulnerability. $45,000 for specialized prenatal care, the price of a high-risk pregnancy after age 27 with complications. Pre-existing condition, the insurance rejection letter stated. Pregnancy-related anxiety disorder diagnosed prior to coverage period. My hands shook as I reviewed my options. The trust fund my mother left, $2 million that should have been mine, remained locked under my father's control until my 30th birthday, 14 months away. The irony wasn't lost on me. My mother had died when I was 16, leaving that money specifically for my independence. But Washington state law allowed the trustee, my father, to maintain control if he deemed me financially irresponsible. Marrying David without a prenuptial agreement had been all the excuse Robert needed. I pulled up my bank account, $3,147. David's life insurance was tied up in probate. The small salary my father paid me, deliberately kept low to maintain dependence, barely covered rent and groceries. The medical consent form stared back at me. Guarantor's signature required for payment plan approval. One signature. That's all I needed from Robert. As co-trustee, he could authorize medical expenses from the trust. It should have been simple. My phone showed 3 missed calls from Dr. Harrison's office. The voicemail was gentle but urgent. Mrs. Ouellette, we need to discuss your latest test results. Your blood pressure is concerning. Please call back immediately. I looked at the emergency medical form one more time, then placed it carefully in my purse. Tomorrow, I'd have to swallow my pride and ask my father for help. For the baby, I'd do anything, even beg. Preeclampsia indicators, Dr. Harrison said, his voice careful but firm over the phone. Your blood pressure is 145/92. The protein in your urine has doubled. Mrs. Ouellette, this is serious. I sat in my car outside Ouellette Construction, gripping the steering wheel. Through the building's glass facade, I could see Marcus in the conference room, laughing with clients. What does this mean for the baby? If your blood pressure spikes above 160/110, or if you experience severe headaches, vision changes, or bleeding, you need to come in immediately. We're talking about potential placental abruption, premature delivery, or worse. Worse. The word echoed in my mind. Any severe stress could trigger a crisis, Dr. Harrison continued. Do you have family support? Someone who can help you stay calm, handle daily stresses? I almost laughed. Yes, I lied. My family is very supportive. Good. Get that guarantor signature today. We need to admit you for monitoring within 48 hours if symptoms worsen. After hanging up, I sat in silence. Inside the building, Marcus was now showing something on his laptop, probably claiming credit for another of my designs. My father stood beside him, proud hand on his son's shoulder. A wave of dizziness hit me. I checked my blood pressure on the portable monitor Dr. Harrison had insisted I carry, 150/95, higher than this morning. Just get the signature, I whispered to myself, practicing what I'd say. Don't argue. Don't defend yourself. Just get it and leave. My phone buzzed with a text from Marcus. Family dinner at Dad's tonight, 7 p.m. Don't be late and embarrass us again. The last time I'd been to my father's house was David's funeral day, when they'd refused to attend. If you've ever been dismissed by your own family when you needed them most, you'll understand what happened next. Before we continue, please hit that subscribe button and ring the notification bell. Your support helps me share these important stories about setting boundaries with toxic people, even when they're family. Now let me tell you about the night that changed everything. November 15th, 7:14 p.m. The storm hit Seattle with unusual fury, winds at 40 miles per hour, rain falling sideways. My windshield wipers struggled to keep up as I drove through Bellevue toward my father's estate. A sharp pain shot across my abdomen. Not a contraction, something different. I pulled into a gas station, breathing through it. The blood pressure monitor read 150/95. Dangerous territory. Just get the signature, I repeated like a mantra, pulling back onto the road. My father's house glowed against the storm, every window blazing with warm light. The circular driveway held Marcus's new Tesla and my father's Mercedes. Through the dining room windows, I could see them both, crystal glasses raised, laughing at something on Marcus's phone. Another pain, stronger this time. I parked and checked my dress. No blood. Not yet. Thank God. The medical forms were safely in my purse, protected in a plastic folder. All I needed was one signature. 5 minutes maximum. I could do this. Walking to the front door, rain immediately soaked through my coat. The temperature had dropped to 39 degrees according to my car's display. Each step up the stone pathway felt heavier than the last. Through the glass panels beside the door, I saw them clearly. My father in his burgundy smoking jacket, Marcus in designer jeans and a cashmere sweater. The dining table was set for two. Only two. I rang the doorbell, my hand shaking from cold and something else. Fear? Humiliation? The laughter inside stopped. Marcus opened the door, whiskey fumes hitting me immediately. His eyes narrowed in confusion, then annoyance. Lola, what the hell are you doing here? You texted me about family dinner. That was a joke. He laughed, looking back at our father. Dad, you'll never guess who actually showed up. Robert appeared behind Marcus, his expression shifting from amusement to irritation. You're dripping on my Persian rug. I need to talk to you. It's important. I pulled the medical folder from my purse, hands trembling. I need your signature as guarantor. The baby, there are complications. Complications. Robert took a sip of his whiskey. There are always complications with you, aren't there? Please, Dad. It's just one signature. The trust can cover it and… The trust. He shook his head. Your mother's money, meant to build the family legacy, not subsidize your poor choices. Marcus laughed. Maybe if you hadn't spread your legs for that construction worker. David was an engineer. The words burst out before I could stop them. Was. Robert's voice was ice. And now you're here, begging, pregnant with a dead man's child, wanting us to pay for your mistakes. A sharp pain ripped through my abdomen. I grabbed the door frame for support. Please, the doctor said it's urgent. The baby could… Could what? Die? Marcus smirked. Might solve your problems. I stared at them both, these men who shared my blood but nothing else. I'm your daughter, your sister. Doesn't that mean anything? Robert stepped forward, his face inches from mine. No. Marcus shoved me backward onto the covered porch. Not violently, just enough force to make me stumble. My hip hit the stone railing as I fought to keep my balance. You want to play the victim? Fine, play it out there. He gestured to the rain pounding just beyond the porch covering. Maybe the cold will teach you not to show up uninvited. Marcus, please. Oh, this is rich. Little Lola, always the martyr. He turned to our father. Should we watch the performance, Dad? Robert stood in the doorway, backlit by the warm chandelier. Your sister needs to learn that actions have consequences. Marrying beneath her, getting pregnant without security, and now what? Expecting us to fix everything? The door started closing. Panic flooded through me. Wait! At least let me explain the medical. The lock clicked. Through the glass panels, I watched them walk back to the dining room, refilling their glasses as if nothing had happened. I pounded on the door. Dad! Marcus! This is insane! They settled into their chairs, Marcus pulling out his phone to show Robert something. Both laughed. The porch offered minimal shelter. Wind drove the rain sideways, soaking my coat within minutes. The temperature felt like it had dropped even further. My phone showed 39 degrees and falling. I tried the door handle again. Locked. The windows were all secured. I knew because I'd helped design the security system years ago, back when they still pretended I mattered. Please, I called through the glass. I'm pregnant. This is dangerous. Marcus looked up, made eye contact with me through the window, then deliberately turned his chair so his back faced me. The message was clear. I didn't exist. 30 minutes passed. My legs were shaking. From cold, from fear, from the increasing contractions. I'd moved to the corner of the porch where the wind was less brutal, but my clothes were soaked through. Through the dining room window, I watched them eating dinner. Steak, from the looks of it. Marcus was animatedly telling a story, using his hands to illustrate. My father laughed, raising his glass in a toast. A sharp cramp doubled me over. When I straightened, I felt wetness that wasn't rain. Looking down in the porch light, I saw a dark stain spreading on my dress. Blood. No, no, no! I stumbled to the window, pounding with both fists. I'm bleeding, please, the baby! Marcus stood up, walked to the window. For a moment, hope flared. He was coming to help. Instead, he pointed at the blood on my dress. then turned to our father with a theatrical expression of shock. Both men laughed. Marcus made exaggerated gestures, mimicking someone acting in a play. "Bravo," he mouthed through the glass, clapping slowly. "Oscar-worthy." My father joined him at the window. They stood there, warm and dry, watching me like I was entertainment. Robert pointed at the blood, then made a dismissive wave. "Drama queen," I saw him say, though the storm muffled his voice. Another contraction hit, stronger than before. I dropped to my knees on the cold stone, one hand on my belly, the other gripping the railing. The blood was flowing faster now, mixing with rainwater on the white porch. Marcus pulled out his phone, and for one desperate second I thought he was calling 911. He was taking a video. 2 hours. 2 hours on that porch, while my body betrayed me and my family watched through glass. My vision had started to blur. The contractions came in waves now, each one stealing more blood, more strength. I'd managed to crawl to the front door, leaving a trail of red on the white stone. "Please," I whispered against the door, too weak to pound anymore. "The baby. Save the baby." The porch light suddenly went out. In the darkness, I could barely make out their silhouettes in the dining room. They'd moved to the living room now, watching something on the massive TV. The flickering light illuminated their faces, relaxed, content, occasionally glancing toward the dark porch where I lay. My phone was dead. The rain had finally stopped, but the temperature had dropped further. The blood loss was making everything cold. So cold. I pressed my hands against my belly, feeling for movement. The baby had been still for the last 20 minutes. "Please move," I begged my child. "Please be okay." Through my fading consciousness, I heard a car door slam. Then another. Male voices approaching. "Jesus Christ! There's someone on the porch! Call 911! No, not 911. I recognized that voice, though my brain struggled to place it. "Lola? Oh my God! Lola, is that you?" Strong arms lifted me, warm coat wrapped around my shoulders, the scent of expensive cologne and leather. "We need to get her to the hospital now. She's hemorrhaging." The front door suddenly opened, light spilling out. My father stood there, his face shifting from annoyance to shock to fear. "What are you doing at my house?" he demanded. The man holding me stepped into the light, and I finally saw his face. Alexander Sterling. "What am I doing?" Alexander's voice was deadly quiet. "I'm saving your daughter's life. The daughter you left bleeding on your porch." Even through my haze, I felt the shift in power. Alexander Sterling wasn't just any CEO. He was Seattle construction royalty, the man whose approval could make or break companies like my father's. "This is a family matter," Robert started. "This is attempted murder." Alexander was already moving toward his Bentley, carrying me like I weighed nothing. "James, call Dr. Harrison at Swedish. Tell him we're coming in hot. Pregnant woman. Massive hemorrhaging." His driver was already opening the back door. Alexander laid me across the leather seats, his suit jacket under my head. "Lola, stay with me. Talk to me." His hand found mine, warm and steady. "The baby," I managed to whisper. "Not moving." "We're 3 minutes from Swedish Medical. You're going to be fine, both of you." Through the rear window, I saw my father and Marcus standing in their doorway, illuminated by the porch light they'd finally turned on. Marcus still held his whiskey glass. It slipped from his fingers, shattering on the stone. "Mr. Sterling!" I heard my father call out, his voice different now, panicked. "Wait, let me explain." But the Bentley was already moving, Alexander barking orders into his phone. "I need the head of obstetrics ready. Prep an OR. I don't care if you have to wake up the entire board." His hand squeezed mine. "Lola, I've been trying to reach you about the waterfront presentation. Why didn't you tell me things were this bad?" I wanted to answer, but darkness was pulling me under. The last thing I heard was Alexander's voice, fierce and protective. "Nobody hurts my lead architect, nobody." I woke to the sound of a fetal heart monitor. Strong, steady beats filled the room. My baby was alive. Thank God. Alexander's voice came from beside my bed. He looked exhausted, his usually perfect suit wrinkled, blood still staining the cuffs. You scared us. Us? Dr. Harrison appeared on my other side. Your baby is stable. We stopped the bleeding, but it was close. Another hour and… He shook his head. Mr. Sterling got you here just in time. How did you… Why were you at my father's house? Alexander's jaw tightened. I was driving back from a client dinner in Bellevue. I remembered you mentioned your family lived there. Thought I might drop off the final contracts for you to review. Then I saw someone collapsed on the porch. He pulled out a tablet, showing me an email dated September 1st. Sterling Development Group hereby confirms L. Phoenix as lead architect for the Waterfront Tower project. Compensation, $8 million plus 2% equity stake. I've been trying to reach you all day. The signing ceremony is in 5 days. We need you there. My family, they don't know about this. I gathered that. His expression darkened. What I witnessed tonight, Lola, no one should endure that, especially not someone carrying a child. They think I'm worthless, that I just draw pretty pictures while the men do real work. Alexander laughed, but it was bitter. Your pretty pictures are about to reshape Seattle's skyline, and they have no idea their daughter is the architect they're desperately trying to impress. What do you mean? Your father's been calling my office for weeks, begging for the waterfront subcontract. 2 years ago, I began, still weak, but needing him to understand. I submitted my portfolio to your company under a pseudonym, L. Phoenix. I remember, the innovation in your designs was unprecedented, but why hide your identity? Look at tonight. That's why. I shifted in the hospital bed, wincing. Every achievement I've ever had, my family has stolen. The Riverside complex that won the AIA award, I designed every inch. Marcus took the credit. Alexander's expression darkened further. The Riverside complex was yours? 3 years of my life. When Marcus accepted that award, I was 7 months pregnant with my first child, standing in the back of the room like a ghost. My God, Lola. So when your company posted that open call for innovative architects, I created a new identity, did all meetings virtually, sent assistants to site visits. I was terrified you'd find out who I really was and the Ouellette name would poison everything. Alexander stood pacing. I've been singing your praises to everyone, the mayor, the architectural board, the media. They're all expecting to meet my mysterious genius architect at the signing ceremony. I can't if my family finds out. Lola. He stopped pacing, his eyes intense. You designed a $2 billion project that will define Seattle for the next century. You did that while pregnant, while grieving your husband, while being abused by your family. You're done hiding. From his briefcase, he pulled out a folder. Every email, every contract, every design approval, all time-stamped, all legally binding. They can't steal this from you. For the first time in years, I felt something dangerous. Hope. Dr. Harrison returned with test results, his face serious, but relieved. The placental bleeding has stopped. Your blood pressure is stabilizing at 135/85, still high but manageable. The baby's heartbeat is strong. Can I go home? I asked, though I wasn't even sure where home was anymore. Not for at least 48 hours. You need monitoring. He glanced at Alexander. Mr. Sterling has arranged for you to stay in our VIP suite. He's also covered all medical expenses. Alexander, I can't accept… It's done. His tone brooked no argument. $8 million architects don't worry about medical bills. Dr. Harrison continued. There's something else. The stress levels you experienced tonight. Your cortisol was off the charts. What happened to you could have triggered a complete placental abruption. Your father and brother, essentially, tried to kill her and the baby, Alexander finished flatly. I was there. I saw everything. I'll need to file a report, Dr. Harrison said carefully. This falls under mandatory reporting for endangerment of a pregnant woman. Fear spiked through me. If you report it, everyone will know. Everyone should know, Alexander interrupted. But we'll handle this strategically. The signing ceremony is November 20th, 5 days from now. Your father and brother will be there, expecting to win that subcontract. A cold smile played at his lips. They're about to learn what happens when you try to destroy talent instead of nurturing it. What are you planning? Justice, Lola. Served at exactly the right temperature, in front of exactly the right audience. 3 days passed in the VIP suite. Alexander visited daily, bringing contracts, blueprints, and something else. Respect. He treated my opinions like they mattered, my designs like art, my trauma like truth. I pulled the security footage, he said on the third day, setting his laptop on my hospital tray. From your father's porch. You what? My head of security has connections. The video is damning. You collapsing, them laughing through the window, the blood on the white stone, all time-stamped. I watched 30 seconds before turning away. I can't. You don't have to. But Lola, they're telling people you're mentally unstable. Your father called my office yesterday, warning us about his troubled daughter, who might try to insert herself into the waterfront project. Rage, clean and sharp, cut through my exhaustion. He said what? He's trying to discredit you preemptively. He must sense something. Alexander closed the laptop. The signing ceremony is in 2 days, 200 guests, the mayor, the architectural board, every major construction firm in Seattle. Your father and Marcus have premium seats, table 2, right behind my executive team. They'll be there expecting to win the subcontract. Exactly. $150 million they're counting on. He leaned forward. I want you there. Not as Robert Ouellette's daughter, but as Elle Phoenix, lead architect. It's time to stop hiding. I thought about David, about our baby, about every stolen moment of recognition. What do I wear? I asked. Alexander smiled, the first genuine smile I'd seen from him. Whatever makes you feel powerful, because you are. November 20th, 2:00 p.m. The Four Seasons Ballroom gleamed with Seattle's elite. 200 of the city's most powerful people gathered for the waterfront tower signing. Crystal chandeliers cast golden light over tables draped in ivory linen. I watched from the VIP prep room as guests arrived. Through the door's crack, I could see table 2 perfectly. My father, resplendent in his navy Armani suit, glad-handing everyone within reach. Marcus beside him, designer everything, checking his phone between forced laughs. Ouellette Construction built half of downtown, I heard Robert telling the couple at table 3. The waterfront project needs experienced hands, not experimental nonsense. Alexander appeared beside me. Ready? I smoothed my black Carolina Herrera dress, the one David had bought me for our anniversary, the one that made me feel like myself. My 6-month bump was prominent now, no hiding it. They don't know I'm here? They think you're still in the hospital. Your father called there this morning, actually. Wanted to know if you were mentally competent to sign over power of attorney. Through the door, I watched Marcus lean over to a reporter. Sterling's being secretive about his architect, probably some East Coast import. No one knows Seattle like we do. The irony was delicious. Sarah Mitchell from the architectural board took the podium. Ladies and gentlemen, before we begin the signing, Alexander Sterling has asked to say a few words about the selection process. My father straightened in his chair, that confident smile spreading. He thought this was his moment. Alexander squeezed my shoulder. Watch this. He strode to the podium with the confidence of a man about to detonate a carefully placed bomb. What happened next at that signing ceremony left everyone speechless. If you're finding value in this story about standing up for yourself, please take a moment to like this video and share it with someone who needs to hear it. Your engagement helps these important messages reach more people. Now let me tell you about the moment everything changed. Before Alexander could speak, my father stood up, raising his champagne glass. The room turned to him. Robert Ouellette commanded attention wherever he went. If I may, he said with practiced charm, before we celebrate this magnificent project, let me share something about Seattle's construction legacy. Alexander paused at the podium, allowing it. I knew that look, giving my father enough rope. Willett Construction has been building this city for 3 generations, Robert continued, his voice carrying perfectly. My grandfather laid the foundations of the Space Needle. My father built the first high-rises downtown. And now, my son Marcus and I continue that tradition. Marcus stood, joining the impromptu toast. We don't just build structures, we build the future. The waterfront tower deserves builders who understand Seattle's soul. Polite applause rippled through the room. Several investors nodded approvingly. Which is why, Robert continued, his voice swelling with confidence, we're honored to be considered for the primary subcontract. Our vision aligns perfectly with Sterling Development's standards. He was practically claiming the contract already. The hubris was stunning. In fact, Marcus added, pulling out his phone, we've already drawn up preliminary workforce allocations, 300 local jobs, all union, all Seattle families. Because family is everything to the Ouellets. Family, the word made me sick. From my hidden vantage point, I saw Alexander's jaw tighten. He let them finish their performance, then approached the microphone. Thank you, Robert. Marcus, your passion for Seattle is noted. His tone was perfectly neutral, giving nothing away. Now, before we discuss contracts, there's someone everyone needs to meet. The person without whom Waterfront Tower wouldn't exist. My father smiled broader, probably thinking Alexander meant him. He had no idea. 2 years ago, Alexander began, his voice cutting through the room's chatter, Sterling Development received a portfolio that changed everything. The designs were revolutionary. 40% energy reduction, integrated community spaces, affordable housing seamlessly blended with luxury units. My father leaned forward, interested despite himself. The architect worked under a pseudonym, insisting on anonymity. Every meeting was virtual, every document digitally signed. For 2 years, this genius reshaped our entire vision for Seattle's waterfront while remaining completely hidden. Murmurs rippled through the crowd. Marcus whispered something to our father, who shrugged. Ladies and gentlemen, the waterfront tower isn't just a building. It's a statement about what Seattle can become, and the person who designed it understood something crucial. Architecture isn't about ego or legacy or family names. He paused, his eyes finding my father's. It's about creating spaces where people thrive, regardless of their background. Where talent matters more than connections. Where innovation trumps tradition. The giant screens around the room flickered to life, showing my designs. The sustainable features, the community gardens, the way natural light would flood even the lowest income units. The architect who created this is here today, Alexander continued. They've been here all along, hidden in plain sight, overlooked by those who should have celebrated them most. My father was frowning now, something clicking in his mind. His eyes scanned the room, looking for an unfamiliar face. Before I introduce them, you should know. This person designed these masterpieces while facing personal tragedy, family betrayal, and life-threatening medical crisis. Their strength humbles me. Alexander turned toward the VIP room, his hand extended. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome L. Phoenix, lead architect of Waterfront Tower. This was it, no turning back. The VIP door opened, and I stepped into the light. For a moment, the room held its breath. I walked slowly, deliberately, my black dress elegant against my pregnant silhouette. My eyes stayed fixed ahead, not looking at table 2, though I felt the exact moment recognition hit. The sound of shattering glass cut through the silence. Marcus had dropped his champagne flute. What? My father's voice, strangled and disbelieving, carried across the room. What is she doing here? I reached the podium, Alexander's hand steady on my back. 200 faces stared at me, but I only saw 2, frozen in identical masks of shock and growing horror. Good afternoon, I said into the microphone. my voice steady and clear. I'm Lola Ouellette, though you know my work as Elle Phoenix. My father shot to his feet. This is a mistake. My daughter isn't. She can't be. Sit down, Robert. Alexander's voice was steel. You'll want to hear this. But my father remained standing, his face cycling through confusion, rage, and something that looked like fear. The screens behind me changed, showing email after email, contracts, design approvals, all dated, all signed with my digital signature, all verified by Sterling Development's legal team. For 2 years, I continued, I've led the design team for Waterfront Tower. Every sustainable feature, every community space, every innovation you've admired came from my drafting table. Sarah Mitchell from the architectural board stood up. Lola? You're Elle Phoenix? You won the AIA Innovation Award last month. Yes, I confirmed, though my family didn't know. They were too busy claiming credit for my other work. The words hung in the air like an accusation. Marcus finally found his voice. This is impossible. She's nobody. She's nothing. Alexander took the microphone. Let me clarify the timeline for everyone. The screens shifted to a detailed presentation. January 2023, L. Phoenix submits revolutionary designs for our waterfront development. March 2023, we sign an exclusive contract, $8 million plus 2% equity. Gasps echoed through the room. My father sank into his chair. For 2 years, Alexander continued, Ms. Ouellette has worked tirelessly on this project. 300 hours of design meetings, 47 complete revisions, all while maintaining absolute secrecy. Why the secrecy? Someone called out. I leaned into the microphone. Because my family has a history of claiming my work. The Riverside complex that won the 2021 AIA award, I designed it. My brother Marcus accepted that award while I watched from the back row, 7 months pregnant. Marcus's face flushed red. That's a lie. I designed Riverside. Really? I pulled out my phone, connecting it to the presentation system. Then explain these. The screens filled with my original sketches, all dated and digitized. Email threads with contractors asking for Lola's innovative touches. Time-stamped photos of me working late at the office, blueprints spread across my desk. Sarah Mitchell stood again. I remember now. The Riverside submission materials, the handwriting in the margins was yours, wasn't it? Every note, every calculation, every innovation that made it award-worthy. The room was buzzing now, phones coming out, people recording. Alexander returned to the microphone. There's more. Contract WTD 2024-1876, dated September 1st, legally establishes Ms. Ouellette as lead architect. This was filed with the city, the architectural board, and our legal department. It's ironclad. My father tried once more. She's my daughter. Surely the family connection. The family that locked her outside in freezing rain 5 nights ago? Alexander's voice turned ice cold. While she was 6 months pregnant and bleeding? The room went silent. I stood at the podium, finally ready to speak my truth to the room, and to them. The waterfront tower represents everything I believe architecture should be, I began, clicking to my presentation. It's not about ego or family legacy, it's about community. The screens showed my designs in detail. 40% of the building's energy will come from renewable sources. The integrated solar panels aren't just functional, they're beautiful, creating a light pattern that will make the building glow at sunset. I clicked again. Every 3rd floor contains community spaces, free for all residents. The rooftop garden will supply fresh produce to local food banks. The ground floor isn't luxury retail, it's affordable spaces for local artists and small businesses. This is ridiculous, Marcus interrupted, standing. She doesn't have the experience. Sit down, Mr. Ouellette, Sarah Mitchell commanded. Let her finish. I continued, my confidence growing. The affordable housing units aren't hidden in the back or basement. They're integrated throughout, with the same quality finishes, the same views, the same dignity. Because in my Seattle, a teacher deserves the same sunset view as a CEO. Several people applauded. I saw reporters typing furiously. This building will house 3,000 people and employ 500 more. It will generate 20 million in annual tax revenue for the city. It will set a new standard for sustainable urban development. I looked directly at my father and brother. And it was designed by someone you considered worthless. Someone you left bleeding on your porch because you couldn't believe her life had value. The mayor stood up. Ms. Willett, this vision is exactly what Seattle needs. The city is proud to support this project. My father's face had gone gray. Marcus was shaking his head, muttering, "No, no, no." But I wasn't done. Sarah Mitchell approached the podium carrying an award plaque. Before we continue, I need to make something clear. Last month, the American Institute of Architects awarded its highest honor for innovative sustainable design. The winner was Elle Phoenix for the Waterfront Tower project. She handed me the crystal trophy. Lola Ouellette, you are officially the youngest recipient of the AIA National Innovation Award in its 70-year history. The room erupted in applause. I saw my father's jaw drop. Furthermore, Sarah continued, the Architectural Board has been investigating claims of design theft in the Seattle market. Mr. Marcus Ouellette, you're listed as the architect for Riverside Complex. Can you explain the mathematical calculations for the cantilever on floors 15 through 20? Marcus went white. The calculations were... My team handled. Your team? Sarah's voice was sharp. Or your sister? This is a witch hunt, Robert stood, his voice booming. My family built this city. Your family built on the backs of unrecognized talent, Alexander interjected. He nodded to his assistant, who started a new video. This security footage is from 5 nights ago, November 15th. The room watched in horror as the grainy video played on the screens. Me, collapsing on the porch, the blood visible even in black and white, my father and Marcus, clearly identifiable, toasting through the window. That's attempted murder, someone whispered. At minimum, it's criminal endangerment, the mayor said, his voice hard. Of a pregnant woman. My father tried to speak, but no words came. Marcus had gone green. Alexander returned to the microphone. Sterling Development has made its decision regarding the waterfront subcontract. Ouellette Construction is permanently blacklisted from all our projects. Forever. The death blow. $150 million. Gone in a sentence. The security footage continued playing, now showing Alexander discovering me, carrying my limp form to his car. The timestamp showed 10:47 p.m. I'd been on that porch for over 3 hours. Turn it off, my father rasped, but no one moved to stop it. The room was dead silent except for the sound of phone cameras clicking. Every major outlet in Seattle was represented. Tomorrow, this would be front-page news. Mr. Ouellette, a reporter called out, do you have any comment on your treatment of your pregnant daughter? It was a misunderstanding, Robert started. A misunderstanding? Dr. Harrison stood up from table 5. I hadn't known he was here. I treated Ms. Ouellette that night. She nearly died. The baby nearly died. Her blood pressure was at stroke levels. She'd lost a dangerous amount of blood. He pulled out his phone, reading from medical records. Severe dehydration, hypothermia onset, placental bleeding, preeclampsia crisis, all caused by prolonged exposure to extreme stress and cold while being denied medical care by her family. She's lying. She's always been dramatic, Marcus shouted, desperation creeping into his voice. I have the medical records, Dr. Harrison said coldly, and I've already filed them with the police. 2 uniformed officers entered the ballroom. I hadn't expected this. We're not here to make arrests, one said, addressing the room. Yet, but we need Robert and Marcus Ouellette to know they're under investigation. My father's legs seemed to give out. He collapsed into his chair. Around him, the other guests at table 2 had shifted away, physically distancing themselves from contamination. Marcus was typing frantically on his phone, probably trying to do damage control. But it was too late. The story was already spreading. Hashtag Ouellette's scandal was trending before the ceremony even ended. The empire they'd built on others' backs was crumbling in real time. Alexander returned to the podium, his voice carrying the finality of a judge's gavel. Let me be crystal clear. Any company that chooses to work with Ouellette Construction will never work with Sterling Development. Ever. The threat landed like a bomb. Sterling Development controlled $2 billion in annual contracts. It was a death sentence. You can't do this, my father shouted, finding his voice. This is business, not personal. Abusing family is personal. Stealing credit is personal. Attempting to destroy talent instead of nurturing it is personal. Alexander's voice was ice. Business is built on values, Robert. Yours are worthless. Thomas Chen from Cascade Investments stood up at table 4. Sterling Development has our full support. Chen Industries is also severing all ties with Ouellette Construction, effective immediately. Another investor rose, then another. Within minutes, 7 major firms had publicly cut ties. This is insane, Marcus screamed. Over her? She's nobody. Nobody, Sarah Mitchell laughed bitterly. She's the most innovative architect Seattle has seen in a generation, and you threw her away like garbage. My father tried one last desperate play. Lola, please. You're still my daughter. Tell them this is a misunderstanding. I looked at him. This man who'd controlled my life, stolen my work, nearly killed his grandchild, and felt nothing but pity. A misunderstanding? I said quietly into the microphone. Like when you said I'd never amount to anything? Like when Marcus stole my designs? Like when you left me bleeding in the cold? We're family. No, I said firmly. Family doesn't do what you did. You're just people I used to know. The dominoes fell fast. Within 10 minutes of Alexander's declaration, phones were buzzing across the ballroom. Marcus's phone rang. He answered with shaking hands. What do you mean, emergency board meeting? His voice cracked. They can't remove me. I own 15%. But apparently they could, and they were. The board is calling for your immediate resignation, he repeated, his face ashen. Effective immediately. Meanwhile, my father was on his own call. 300 million credit line? Frozen? You can't. He listened, his face growing grayer. Because of reputational risk? This is 40 years of relationship. A reporter from the Seattle Times approached their table. Mr. Ouellette, can you confirm that Ouellette Construction is now facing a liquidity crisis? No comment, Robert muttered, but everyone could see the truth. The empire was crashing. Ms. Ouellette, another reporter called to me. What's your response to your family's crisis? I thought carefully. I hope they use this as an opportunity for growth, for learning that talent and hard work deserve recognition, regardless of gender or family position. That's it? The reporter pressed. No anger? Anger is exhausting. I have a baby to prepare for and a building to complete. I don't have time for anger. Alexander leaned into his own microphone. Sterling Development will be establishing a foundation for women in architecture who face discrimination. Our first grant of $1 million will support pregnant women and new mothers in the field. He looked directly at my father. We're calling it the Phoenix Foundation, rising from the ashes of abuse. My father stumbled toward me as the crowd began to disperse, his perfect composure finally shattered. Lola, please, we need to talk. Security moved to intercept, but I held up my hand. Let him speak. Let everyone hear. You're destroying everything, he hissed. Everything your grandfather built. Everything I've worked for. Everything you built on my work, you mean? I kept my voice level, professional. The Riverside Complex, the Harbor Square renovation, the Belltown Towers. Should I continue? You're still my daughter. Biologically, yes. But family is about love, support, protection. You locked me out in freezing rain while I bled. That's not family. That's abuse. Marcus joined him, desperate. We can work this out. We'll give you credit. We'll make you a partner. A partner? I almost laughed. I don't need your partnership. I have my own company now. This was news to everyone, including Alexander, who raised an eyebrow. Phoenix Architecture Studios, I announced. Opening next month, we'll specialize in sustainable, community-focused design, and we'll never, ever steal credit from our employees. This is revenge, Robert accused. No. Revenge would be pursuing criminal charges for attempted murder. This is consequence. I turned to address the remaining crowd. My father and brother made choices. Now they're experiencing the results. That's not revenge, it's justice. Lola. My father reached for me. Don't. I stepped back. You made your choice that night on the porch, when you laughed while I bled. Now live with it. As my father and Marcus were escorted out by security, the room transformed. Where there had been shock, now there was opportunity. Ms. Ouellette, a woman approached, Jennifer Park from Cascade Architecture. We'd love to partner with Phoenix Studios. We have 12 projects that could use your innovation. Before I could respond, another firm approached, then another. Within minutes, I had business cards from 10 major firms. Alexander smiled. I should mention, Sterling Development is prepared to offer Ms. Ouellette the position of Chief Design Officer, $500,000 annual salary plus equity. The number was staggering. There's one condition, he continued. We want Phoenix Studios as our exclusive residential partner. Your firm, your vision, backed by our resources. And, Sarah Mitchell added, joining us, the architectural board would like to fund a scholarship program through Phoenix Studios for young women facing family opposition to their careers. Dr. Harrison appeared at my elbow. Swedish Medical wants to sponsor a maternity leave program for your employees. Full pay, 6 months, no questions asked. It was overwhelming. In 30 minutes, I'd gone from nobody to the most sought-after architect in Seattle. There's one thing I want to make clear, I said, addressing everyone. Phoenix Studios will donate 10% of profits to supporting women escaping domestic abuse, because talent shouldn't be trapped by toxic families. The applause was immediate and genuine. Your father and brother? Someone asked. They'll survive, or they won't. That's no longer my concern. I placed my hand on my belly. I have a future to build. 3 days after the ceremony, my lawyer, Patricia Hoffman, called with news that made me sit down. The judge signed the emergency order, she said, triumph in her voice. Your father must release your mother's trust immediately, all $2 million. How? The security footage, Dr. Harrison's testimony, and the police investigation. The judge said it was the clearest case of fiduciary misconduct and endangerment she'd ever seen. The money will be in your account within 48 hours. But that wasn't all. Your father's lawyer contacted me. They want to settle out of court for the emotional distress and endangerment charges. Settle, $5 million, plus full medical expenses and a restraining order. They're terrified of a criminal trial. I thought about it. A trial would mean reliving that night repeatedly. What do you recommend? Take it. Use the money to build your life. The restraining order means they can't come within 500 feet of you or your child without court supervision. Do it. 2 days later, $7 million sat in my account. My mother's money, finally free. Justice money from my father's cruelty. And my earnings from Waterfront Tower still to come. I stood in my new office space, a beautiful loft in Pioneer Square with views of Elliott Bay. Phoenix Architecture Studios was real. The nameplate on the door gleamed in the afternoon sun. My phone buzzed with a text from my father. Please, can we talk? I deleted it without responding. Then I blocked the number. Some bridges, once burned, should stay ash. And from those ashes, phoenixes rise. The Seattle Times headline read, Ouellette Construction loses 60% of clients in wake of abuse scandal. I read the article over morning tea in my new office. Stock price down 45%, credit lines frozen, major clients fleeing like rats from a sinking ship. The city council is reviewing all Ouellette construction contracts, my assistant Marie informed me. There's talk of a full audit going back 5 years. My phone rang. Unknown number, but I recognized Marcus's wife's voice. Lola, it's Catherine. I wanted you to know. I'm leaving him. What he did to you. What I saw on that video. I can't stay with someone capable of that. Catherine, you don't have to. Yes, I do. My daughters deserve better than a father who would watch his pregnant sister bleed. The divorce papers were filed this morning. After she hung up, Marie brought in more news. Your father was removed from the Seattle Business Council, unanimous vote, and the Rainier Club revoked his membership. The Rainier Club. My father's holy grail, the validation he'd sought his entire life. Gone. There's more, Marie said carefully. Ouellette Construction's headquarters building? The landlord is Sterling Development. Alexander Sterling just gave them 30 days' notice to vacate. The irony was perfect. My father would have to abandon the building he'd been so proud of, the one with his name in gold letters on the front. By noon, 3 more news outlets had picked up the story. The security footage had gone viral. Hashtag Justice for Lola was trending nationally. My father had wanted a legacy. He got one, just not the kind he'd imagined. The emails started a week after the ceremony. Long, rambling apologies from my father. Shorter, desperate ones from Marcus. I was wrong, my father wrote. Your mother would be ashamed of me. Please, let me meet my grandchild when they're born. Marcus tried a different approach. I'm in therapy now. I understand how toxic I was. I want to make amends. He'd even sent a check for $50,000 for the baby. I sent it back with a note. Your money won't buy forgiveness. Do the work first. Patricia, my lawyer, helped me draft formal terms. If they wanted any possibility of future contact, they had to. Complete 1 year of intensive therapy with a specialist in family abuse. Publicly acknowledge their theft of my work and issue formal apologies in the Seattle Times. Donate $1 million each to domestic violence shelters. Sign legal documents acknowledging my sole custody and limiting their access. These seem harsh, Patricia said. Harsh? I laughed bitterly. They left me bleeding in the cold. These are boundaries, not punishment. 2 weeks later, both had signed the agreements. The public apology ran on page 3. We, Robert and Marcus Ouellette, publicly acknowledge that we systematically stole design credit from Lola Ouellette, subjected her to emotional and physical abuse, and endangered her life and that of her unborn child. We are seeking professional help for our actions. It was a start. Not forgiveness, not reconciliation, but acknowledgement. Change takes time. Trust takes longer. And some wounds never fully heal. They just scar over, stronger than before. February 15th. Phoenix Architecture Studios officially opened with 12 employees, 9 women, 3 men, all brilliant, all previously overlooked by traditional firms. Our first project, a $50 million sustainable housing complex in South Seattle. The client specifically requested the L Phoenix touch. We're booked solid for 2 years, Marie announced at our opening celebration, and the waiting list keeps growing. The office was everything Ouellette Construction never was. Open, collaborative, walls covered with everyone's designs, all credited. A nursery in the corner for employees' children. Flexible hours, profit sharing. You did it, Alexander said, raising his champagne glass. You built something entirely yours. My water broke 2 hours later. Hope Phoenix Ouellette arrived at 3:47 a.m. on February 16th. 6 pounds, 4 ounces of perfect. As I held her, I thought about the night on the porch, how close we'd come to not making it. She's beautiful, the nurse said. Strong heartbeat, fighter like her mom. Through the window I saw Seattle waking up, the city my family claimed to own but never understood. It didn't belong to the Ouellettes or the Sterlings or anyone with a name on a building. It belonged to everyone who worked to make it better. Your daddy would have loved you, I whispered to Hope. And mommy's going to make sure you grow up knowing your worth isn't determined by your last name or who you marry or how well you please others. It's determined by who you choose to be. Phoenix Architecture Studios. Rising from ashes. Building the future. 6 months later, August afternoon. The coffee shop on Pine Street was neutral territory, public enough for safety, private enough for conversation. My father looked older, smaller somehow, his usual commanding presence diminished. Marcus sat beside him, fidgeting with his coffee cup. Across from them, I held Hope while my lawyer Patricia sat to my right. "Thank you for agreeing to this," Robert began, his voice uncertain in a way I'd never heard. "You've completed 6 months of therapy," I acknowledged. "Dr. Brennan says you're making progress." "We are," Marcus said quickly. "I understand now what we did. The narcissistic family system, the scapegoating, the—" "Don't quote your therapist at me," I interrupted. "Show me through actions." They exchanged glances. Robert pulled out a folder. "I've restructured Ouellette Construction. 30% of leadership positions are now held by women. We've implemented blind submission for all design credits, and we're funding a scholarship for female architects." "It's a start," I said. Hope gurgled, and both men's eyes locked onto her. The longing in their faces was obvious. "Can we—" Marcus started. "You can see her for 30 minutes once a month," I said firmly. "Always supervised. Never alone with her. Patricia will coordinate the meetings." "That's all?" My father's voice cracked. "You're lucky it's that much. You nearly killed us both." "We know," Robert said quietly. "I dream about that night. You on the porch, the blood, the cold. I wake up sick with myself." "Good. Maybe that sickness will keep you from ever doing it to someone else." We established the rules. No discussing my childhood with Hope. No gifts without approval. No showing up uninvited. No posting about her on social media. Any violation meant permanent cutoff. "I understand," my father said. "Whatever it takes." As we left, Hope reached toward them with chubby fingers. They both froze, afraid to move. "Next month," I said. "Earn it." Trust is earned in drops and lost in buckets. They had a long way to go to refill what they'd spilled that night on the porch. The Phoenix Foundation's first anniversary gala brought together 200 women in architecture. Women who'd been overlooked, undervalued, had their work stolen, women like me. 57 women have left abusive work or family situations because of the support this foundation provided, I told the audience. 57 phoenixes rising from their own ashes. One woman approached afterward, young, maybe 25, tears in her eyes. "My father says architecture is men's work. My brothers take credit for my designs. I thought I was alone." "You're not," I assured her. "You never were. We just couldn't see each other through the smoke of all those bridges burning." Phoenix Studios had grown to 30 employees. We'd completed 12 projects, each one credited accurately, each one pushing sustainable boundaries. The waterfront tower was 60% complete, already winning pre-construction awards. "You've changed Seattle," Sarah Mitchell said, joining us. "Not just the skyline, the culture. Firms are restructuring. Credit theft is finally being called out." But the real change was smaller, quieter. It was in the emails I received daily from women finding their voices, in the fathers reconsidering how they treated daughters, in the companies implementing blind design reviews. "Your family?" Sarah asked carefully. "They're trying. Real change takes time. Maybe Hope will know them as better people than I did. Maybe not, but she'll know her worth regardless." That night, I stood on my office balcony with Hope sleeping against my chest. Seattle sparkled below, a city of bridges and water, of old names and new dreams. "You can love people from a distance," I whispered to my daughter. "You can forgive without forgetting. You can rise without revenge. Blood makes you related. Loyalty makes you family. And sometimes, the family you choose is stronger than the one you're born into." 1 year later, the waterfront tower's grand opening, 2,000 people gathered to see Seattle's new landmark, my design, finally built, reaching toward the sky like a promise kept. I stood with 18-month-old Hope on my hip, watching the ribbon cutting from the architect's platform. She pointed at the building, babbling excitedly. Yes, baby. Mommy built that while you were in my belly. We built it together. In the crowd, I spotted my father and Marcus, invited as regular guests, not VIPs. They watched from a distance, respecting the boundary. My father caught my eye and nodded. Acknowledgement without intrusion. Progress. Alexander took the podium. This building represents what's possible when talent is recognized, not stolen. When innovation is celebrated, not suppressed. When we lift each other up instead of tearing each other down. The crowd erupted in applause. Hope clapped her tiny hands, laughing. Later, as the sun set through the building's solar panels, casting rainbow patterns across Seattle, I thought about that night on the porch. How close I'd come to losing everything. How that loss had become my greatest gain. My phone buzzed with messages from women around the world, sharing their own stories of rising from abuse, of setting boundaries, of choosing themselves. This is what phoenixes do. We rise, we soar, and we light the way for others to follow. Thank you for listening to my story. If it resonated with you, please subscribe and share it with someone who needs to hear that it's okay to set boundaries with toxic family members. Your mental health and safety come first, always. Comment below with your thoughts. I read every single one. Remember, you deserve respect, especially from those who claim to love you. Until next time, stay strong.